This is what's happening to Indonesia's rainforests. 34,000 square kilometres lost every year. Thousands of species threatened and environment denuded. But the effects are more far-reaching than that. These trees once stored huge amounts of carbon dioxide, but so many are being cut down that when this deforestation is taken into account, Indonesia becomes the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. That's after China and the US, both of which are heavily industrialized nations. Indonesia is leading an alliance of rainforest nations known as the F8, which wants to be rewarded for not exploiting one of its most valuable resources. A complete lack of rainforest management in parts of Southeast Asia means that the value of a forest is far greater once it's been felled than when it's left standing. Now, rainforest nations say they want to change that, but for a price. The multi-billion-dollar package that the F8 countries are expected to put up for discussion involves gaining carbon credits in return for protecting their forests. These credits could be sold to other countries or companies which exceed their emissions limits. Brazil was among countries that first raised this idea 10 years ago. Papua New Guinea and Costa Rica resurrected it 2 years ago at climate talks in Montreal. But there's much uncertainty over how such a carbon trade could be implemented. How much carbon, for example, is emitted by a forest? There's also a sense of unease over the idea of paying rainforest nations not to develop, as well as fears it might open the door to blackmail.
You have a potential risk that there may be companies that, in anticipation of this measure, may try to get concessions to clear land for plantations, for other activities, for logging, and then cash them in and get compensation under the scheme.
The economic incentives for cutting down trees are huge. Indonesia loses most of its rainforest to illegal logging. The government lacks the resources and some say the political will to stop it. The other major threat is the lucrative palm oil industry. Hectare after hectare of one of the planet's most diverse ecosystems replaced by cash crop palms. Even the booming biofuel industry, much praised for being climate friendly, is a growing threat to forests, earning itself the nickname deforestation diesel. Negotiations for the next global emissions agreement to replace the Kyoto Protocol in 2012 will formally begin in Bali in December. Now, if Indonesia succeeds in finally getting these incentives for saving the rainforests, the F8 plan could mark a major shift in the battle against global warming. It could also change the way the world values a living forest. Laura Kyle, Al Jazeera.